Welcome to Talk Michelle, where I will talk, you will talk, we will talk. We will discuss and share some practical applications for our Christian walk. Remember, this is a discussion, so go ahead, comment and share your views and stories below. Talk with me. Welcome and thank you for joining me today and Talk Michelle. As you can see from the video, we'll be talking about worshiping God in spirit and in truth. And what does that mean for us? What does it mean to worship? What does it mean God is a spirit? And what does it mean that we should worship Him in spirit? And we also should worship Him in truth. I have heard a lot of people use this phrase. From when I was young, I used to hear people say a lot that we must worship God in spirit and in truth. And if I can recall, most of the time it's referring to someone when they're probably misbehaving in church. That's when you tend to hear it. As I get older and I start thinking more and more about this, I'm like, what does it mean for me? What does it actually mean? And what does it mean for you? And like I said, we're having a discussion. So talk to me in the comment section. What do you understand this to be? Yes, I'm going to delve into it, but you might have a different understanding. So let's talk about this. We're here to grow spiritually and to enhance His kingdom. So let's delve into it. So in John 4:24, Jesus met the woman at the well. Well, He met her before verses 24, and they were having a discussion, and he asked her for some water, and she was like, I can't give you water. You are a Jew, I'm a Samaritan, we worship in different places. They continued to have a conversation, and then Jesus said to her, go and get your husband. She said, I don't have a husband. To which He said, you're right, you don't have a husband. Previously you've got 5 husbands, and the one you now live with, it's not yours. You're not married to him. She was stunned by this, and she was saying, yes, he's a prophet, etc. But I think then she didn't want him to delve into her personal life. She probably felt a bit uncomfortable that this man know all about my personal life. So I think that's when she changed the subject to say, let's focus on religion. And that's when she started talking about, okay, we Samaritan worship in a different place to the Jews. And this was Jesus' response, and I will read for you. So we have John 4:24. Well, I'll read from verses 23. And this is Jesus speaking. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when true worshippers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. And then verse 24. For God is spirit, and His worshippers must worship Him in spirit and in truth. So let's break it down. Firstly, I think it's important that we look at what does it mean to worship. To worship is honoring someone, showing respect, reverence, and we do this in different ways. Some of us, we will pray, we will sing, and just to clarify, a lot of us think that singing is worshiping. It's a form of worshiping, but it is not the only way of worship. That's just one way of worshiping. Some of us dance, some will bow down, some of us we will raise our hands. We attend various different services. That is a part of worshiping. And worship goes a lot deeper, because the way we live our life is also worshiping, because it's a way of showing respect to God, because you're following His word. So our whole life is a form of worship, just that we can pick out different aspects of worshiping. We can worship in a group, and we can worship individually. So we understand it's about honoring and showing reverence to God. In this aspect, that is what we're doing when we worship. The next thing I want us to look at is, now, this is the biggie. What does it mean that God is spirit? A lot of us say, what does it mean God is spirit? And one of the easy, I think, way of understanding why God is a spirit is his omnipotence, his omniscience, and his omnipresence. Only a spiritual being can have all three of those characteristics. God manifests himself on earth through Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not a spirit. He manifests himself as human being. So Jesus Christ was not a spirit. He was not. All three of those characteristics, the one that he wasn't omnipresent. He was all-knowing, he was all-powerful, but he wasn't omnipresent. And he could get from place to place quite quickly, but he wasn't omnipresent. So Jesus Christ, as the Son, is not a spirit. Only the Father has all those characteristics as being a spirit. So once we understand that, we realize that God being a spirit means that he omnipresent, is everywhere. So it's important that wherever I am, I am worshiping. I can worship him in that way. The other bit is omniscience. So he's all-knowing. He knows everything. So you can't hide anything away from him. So that's an understanding again of how we understand him being a spirit. He's everywhere. He knows everything. He's all-powerful and around us. So that looks at the bit as God being a spirit. But I can take it a little bit further. When Jesus was talking to the Samaritan woman, the reference was actually to place, i.e., God is not confined to a geographical location. Because the question she asked him was that, well, we worship in one place, the Jews worship in another. And this was when Jesus responded to her, God is spirit. Meaning, you don't need to be in place A or B to worship him. You can worship God anywhere. And that's the spiritual side of it. And that's how we worship God in spirit. I.e., we can worship God wherever we are. If we're driving a car, we're in a bus, we're at work, we're at church, wherever you are, there is no geographical constraint to worshiping God. So that's how we worship God in spirit. Because we can worship him anywhere, because God is everywhere. Well, I hope you get that bit. Let me know what you think in the comment section. The other, yes, and then we look at what does it mean as God being a spirit, and we look at all the omniscience, his omnipresence, and his omnipotence. So he's being all powerful, all knowing, and that is everywhere. We talk also, what does that mean in relation to what Jesus said to the woman at the well? And it means that God is not restricted to a geographical location. Therefore, when we worship him in spirit, it means we are not restricted to a geographical location. As back then, as I said, the Samaritans worship in one place, the Jews worship in another place. Jesus made it clear, to worship God in spirit means you worship him wherever you are. All aspect of your life means that you worship him. Not just when you go to church, not when you meet in your life group or your small group or your home groups. It comes under different names. But You worship Him everywhere, at work, at home, the way you treat your spouse, the way you treat your children. That is worshiping God. We look at the truth is that we need to know who God is. We need to understand Him, and that is how we get to know Him, is by reading our Bible, knowing more about Him, and knowing what He wants of us. I'm sorry, I'm having a cup of chai tea as I speak with you. That's lovely. I haven't had a chai tea in a long while. But the more we know God, the more intimate you become with Him. And again, that comes under truth. You cannot worship God unless you know Him. Because you're not going to know what to do. What you worshiping? What are you singing to? What does that mean? So unless you know God, your worship will be lacking. You can start off, but you need to have that desire to want to know Him more. So your worship becomes more spirit-filled. Your worship becomes what He wants, not just what you want. So our worship is about our love for God. So the more we get to know Him because we love Him, that's how our worship will grow in that way as well. So it should be directed by our love for Him. So loving Him with heart, soul, mind, and strength. So it's not for others' benefit. It's not for show. It is to God. And when it comes on to worship, one of the best type of worship is when you're on your own. When you're on your own and you're worshiping. And why is that? Because you are not feeling any restriction. Say for instance you're in a building or you're with a group of people, it could be church, wherever, and you're worshiping. You've got some people who might be shouting, some people might be dancing, while there are others who might feel like doing that, but they're not confident enough to do that. But when you're home and you're on your own, you can do whatever you want. You can run about in your house, you can jump, you can shout, you can dance. Yeah? And for some of us who feel like we can't dance, we won't do it in a public place or where other people are. So the best form of worship, when you're worshiping on your own and you don't care about what's happening around you, there's nothing to worry about, nobody looking at you, you just giving Him everything. Thank you for listening to me, and leave a comment. As I said, we're having a discussion. Talk to me. Let me know what your views are. That when we worship God in spirit, it means there's no geographical restriction. We worship Him everywhere. When we worship Him in truth, it's about us getting to know Him, know who He is, and we get to know Him through reading the Bible. And one of the big things about this whole thing is that they both work together. So it has to be in spirit and it has to be true. We can't have the truth without the spirit, or the spirit without the truth. Listen, thank you for listening to me, and I'll be looking out to read your comments. Have a good day. This was Talk Michelle. Now that I have talked, it's over to you. Remember, this is a discussion, so go ahead, comment, share your views and stories in the comment section below. Talk with me.